It's a good moment to start. Thank you very much for coming to the to our parliament. It's always busy here, but we will be very interested to hear your story on Pakistan. And I would like to give you the floor, and please divide between yourself to talk to us for 20 minutes or 15 minutes between you about the issues you want to talk to and what you want to ask to us. Maybe it's good that we introduce ourselves. I'm Pieter Omtzigt. I'm a member of the Christian Democratic Party, and I did visit Pakistan last year for a week to meet some of your minorities.
Hello, I'm Kees van der Staaij from the SDP Political Reform Party.
Desiree Bonus, I'm the spokesperson for the Labour Party. Nice to meet you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Mr. for giving me the opportunity to speak on Pakistan, and specifically I will speak on Balochistan. I really appreciate this opportunity because I have been representing the human rights violations of Balochistan in the United Nations Human Rights Commission subcommission. Now it's changed to Council since 2001. And we have suffered occupation by Pakistan since 1948, but we had no representation in the United Nations Human Rights Council until 2001. So I was the first person who actually took the case, presented the human rights violations there. And since then, our friends or sympathizers in the European Union have given us various platforms in different European countries and in the European Parliament. Mr. Kasaka has been a great help in this. And I'm extremely pleased and grateful to your initiative for the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Dutch Parliament to allow us to come here and inform you or just tell you of our miseries, our ground realities of what's going on in Balochistan occupied by Pakistan. I'll start with very sad news, which a couple of hours ago there was a big earthquake in Balochistan. Although on the news it's seen as Iran, but it's in Balochistan. Of course, Iran is affected, but it's in the Balochistan area of Iran, and it's on the bordering area. So Pakistan and Iran, that border region is Balochistan. So it's the largest earthquake in the region in the last 40 years. 7.8 on the Richter scale. I am quite oblivious to the facts of what's happening because no media is allowed in Balochistan by Pakistani government. So I could not give you any facts and figures, although I've been told the mainly hit areas are Mashkel and Panjgur of the Pakistan-occupied Balochistan region, where 9 people are confirmed dead and hundreds yet unconfirmed. But this is the Arab media and the Arab news agencies are giving us this information. Pakistan news agencies generally do not cover Balochistan. Even there were floods a few years ago, you must have heard, they said floods in Pakistan. It was floods in Balochistan. And the international community offered the help of aid, but Pakistan refused blatantly, because it was in Balochistan, and Pakistan is not very concerned. And secondly, they want to keep this behind closed doors of what's happening in Balochistan. I'll read extensively, but I just wanted to give. So whenever something happens in the region of Balochistan, news says it Iran or Pakistan, but it is us who are suffering. So this is a major catastrophe which took place. I thought it's important to highlight this before I start my written statement. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity. The Pakistani establishment is complicit and responsible for brutal persecution of ethnic and religious minorities. The policy of persecution is inherent in its genesis, as it was founded on the basis of religion, and it demands conformity solely on this basis. Pakistan, with its fascistic policies, is slowly moving towards becoming a theocratic state. They live in the illusion of the past glories, created by distortion of history. They have nothing to do with the present or the future. The single-point agenda is to Islamize the world, and the only option open to them is the terrorist sponsorship route. All terror-related incidents have been tracked back to Pakistan. Let's not forget where bin Laden was found. The world should understand that Pakistan is untrustworthy and devious to the extreme because its aims are at a variance with that of the world, and it's a clear and present danger to the world. The ethnic minorities have always been deprived of their political, economic, cultural, and social rights, and their land has been viewed as the terra nullius. The Baloch were deprived of their independence on 27th of March 1948, after their sovereign status had been accepted by Pakistan and Britain under the August 4th Standstill Agreement. Since then, the Baloch have been relentlessly persecuted in every possible way, and now a dirty war on the lines of past Latin American dictatorships is being conducted against us. In a little over than 2 years, nearly 700 persons have been abducted, killed, and dumped in Baluchistan. Hundreds of intellectuals, including renowned Professor Sabah Dashtari, lawyers, journalists, human rights activists, political activists, students, have been gunned down with impunity. Moreover, 14,000 persons are missing, and in mind, this dirty war has been intensified during the so-called democratic dispensation of the People's Party government since 2008. On the 11th of May 2013, elections are going to be held across Pakistan. Baloch nationalists will not participate in these so-called elections. Boycotting these Pakistani elections, the democratic and civilized world should not think that the Baloch don't believe in democracy or elections. As we were never part of Pakistan, the Baloch are struggling to regain our independence, and participating in Pakistan's elections would be the same as participating in a foreign country's elections. Is not legal for us to participate from the Baloch nationalist point of view. Baloch consider these elections as selections, where the Pakistani establishment will distribute ministries to their favorite fake leaders to convince the world that the Baloch nation is part of Pakistan, and the Baloch believe in the institutions of Pakistan and cooperate with the establishment, and there is no human rights violations issue or the issue of the Baloch national question. We are part and parcel of the Pakistan package, which is not true. By participating in these elections, we would be validating Pakistani occupation and legitimizing the genocide of the Baloch nation. More than 500 missing Baloch people's mutilated and bullet-ridden bodies were discovered during the Pakistan People's Party government. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, HRCP, Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, have all documented this in the last 5 to 6 years of the human rights violations going on. So it's not only my word, all international human rights organizations have documented these human rights violations. Pakistan is now allied with China to loot and plunder Baloch resources against their will. The Pakistani government did not consider it necessary to consult the Baloch before taking key decisions, such as recent Pak-Iran gas pipeline agreement and the handing over of Gwadar port to the Chinese, where Sunda copper mines are already being milked by the Chinese without our consent. The government didn't even bother to seek advice from the so-called nationalists who were on their payrolls and the allies of the Pakistani establishment for these projects. If that is democracy, then I'm sorry to inform the world that the Baloch are unwilling to accept Pakistan's artificial brand of democracy. Pakistan, with the help of China, will make Balochistan, due to our strategic location and resources, the linchpin of its aggression against peace in the region, if they are allowed to continue the military domination and political oppression in Balochistan. In 1971, when the Bengalis, fed up with the persecution, fought for their independence, they were subjected to carnages, rapes, pillages by the Pakistani army and its fundamentalist minions. Millions were killed. Hundreds of thousands of women were raped and intellectuals systematically killed. Ethnic Sindhis, too, have seen their rights violated, as 53% of the barrage irrigated lands are in possession of non-Sindhis. Some Sindhi activists have turned up dead after being abducted and tortured by the Pakistani intelligence agencies, mainly the ISI. People of Gilgit-Baltistan are demanding autonomy and resent the increasing Chinese involvement in their region. The Shia community has suffered terribly at the hands of the Pakistani establishment-sponsored religious extremists, who were used in Afghanistan and Kashmir in the past, and at present are being used against the Baloch nationalists who seek freedom from Pakistani occupation. Christians, too, have been attacked mostly in Punjab on flimsy pretext of blasphemy. And in March this year, more than 100 houses of Christians were looted and set on fire in Badami Bagh area of Lahore. Charlie Wilson will expand on that. I just had to touch the topic. In Balochistan, the Pakistani-backed death squads kidnap rich Hindu traders for ransom. And in Sindh, their women are forcibly converted and married off to Muslims. Inexorably, Pakistan is failing and going under. Understandably, in its death throes, it has become vicious, and it will become more and more so. But its viciousness would be defanged if Baloch were helped to counter its designs effectively. Pakistan is not only a threat to international and national religious minorities living within its geographical confines, but its strategic assets, i.e. now autonomous militant proxies, are a threat to regional and world peace. So in the interest of world peace, I appeal to the democratic world that we should understand our obligations in countering persecution and repression unleashed by Pakistan against ethnic and religious minorities. In conclusion, I appeal to the Dutch Parliament to review their foreign policy towards Pakistan, and I also appeal to the International Criminal Court here in The Hague to formally institute a case against Pakistan for its heinous crimes against the Baloch nation and serious human rights violations in Balochistan. I thank you very much for your attention.
You basically is quite simple. What do you expect us to do?
Briefly, what we would want the European Parliament or the European Union or even the Dutch Parliament, what you could do, I mean, I've always propagated the fact that Pakistan is an artificial country. It was created by the conspiracy of the British to stop the Soviet army from coming to the warm waters. That was the only reason for its creation. It's not a natural phenomenon. Pakistan is an artificial entity. Keeping that aside, it occupied us, which were a sovereign independent nation of Balochistan in 1948. Why Pakistan has managed till now to disguise all this, and the international community is seen as one sovereign nation of Pakistan? I've always said, you know, from a human rights point of view, from a natural rights point of view, as a nation, we are a member of the nations of this world. So as all sovereign nations, they should highlight the fact that my sovereign independent nation was occupied by Pakistan. And the struggle of the Baloch people to regain their independence is a justified act. And we want the help of the European Union, because at many times America has maybe supported Pakistan not because it believes in Pakistan, but somehow it's been blackmailed into supporting Pakistan. I think 9/11 is a perfect example. Pakistan was the main beneficiary of 9/11. No other country gained. That's one point. Another point is that the arms aid, food aid, all kind of aid that's given to Pakistan, it's specifically targeted to Punjab. They give it to their own people. Especially any arms aid that's provided by the EU or especially the US, it's used against the Baloch, not against the Taliban or Al-Qaeda. And we have documented evidence of bombs, because aerial bombardment takes place regularly in Balochistan. And the shells left over is all US supplied. Of course, Chinese and US. So they should be really careful on giving aid to Pakistan, because most of that aid is used against us.
Thank you very much, both for your introductions and statements. I have two questions. First, can you tell us more about the role of government on different levels in the willingness to protect minorities? So what's the problems caused by different groups in society, and what's the role of government in it? Can you specify that something more? And secondly, about the external pressure, the pressure from Western countries. Is there also a risk that it can have an opposite effect, counterproductive, so that they can say, see, your case is a Western case, and so it's not helpful. Do you have lessons about what's the best pressure to be helpful for the minorities?
Again, we don't consider ourselves as an ethnic minority. We are a Baluch nation, so we're not an ethnicity in Pakistan. We're an occupied territory by Pakistan. The government's role, they have provincial governments, which are very dangerous. Therefore, we were against the elections, because these governments are formed by the ISI and the military. They select who is the provincial government members. And this is the most dangerous game they play, because internationally they say, but these are elected members. I mean, if you ask elected members, they would even deny that human rights violations are taking place, mutilated bodies are thrown, they say nothing is happening. As the earthquake, there's no media covering anything. This selected people who represent the Baluch on the provincial level, or therefore you call it the government, is actually a big problem for us, the nationalists, to justify our cause and all the human rights violations, because then again they will bring on Pakistan television, these Mr. Governor, Mr. Minister this, Minister of this, and these guys, everything is fine. These guys, it comes back to your second question, when external pressure, and would it be counterproductive? Yes, because then they say these guys, like my family, there's some other families, some tribes who are predominantly nationalists and we want independence. We've talked since 1948, we've been struggling for this. Then they say, Mossad funded, Indian funded, CIA funded, European Union funded, these guys. So they have more justification to further kill our people. So yes, it is, but then again, the world has to speak the truth. We have to speak the truth. My brother was killed in 2007. He was an elected member of parliament. He was not in the parliament, but he was sitting in London. He just put his name down because we are nationalists, it's our territories, and people support us. And he won the election sitting in London, and then we went back to Balochistan, never attended the parliament, went to the mountains. He was killed by Musharraf in 2007, in November. So we have even proved that even if we get in the democratic process, people will vote for us, but we don't believe in this. It's not for us. So yes, we will have some counterproductive things happening to us if the world start talking about us. But I think speaking is better than silence. You know, people have to know the truth, no matter what cost we have to pay. We're talking about conditions on aid, the Kerry-Lugar bill. The Pakistanis went crazy when the Kerry-Lugar bill came forward. We don't want anything because, of course, they're using the aid for totally different purposes. They were not combating the Taliban or the Al-Qaeda. So the Kerry-Lugar scared them off. So if you give them any aid with conditions of tell us what you do with it, their reaction will tell you exactly what they're going to do with the aid.
Thank you, gentlemen. And I would like to offer you my sympathy on behalf of the Labour Party for what's happening right now in East Iran, West Pakistan, the horrible earthquake that will probably take a lot of toll. On Pakistan, I think the worries there are generally shared internationally. We all see a very unstable Pakistan. We see human rights violations. We see security threats, and it should be of our interest, of course, and also of our concern. We are especially worried about, as you have been describing here, the position of minorities in the country, be it religious minorities such as Shia. I think you speak about Islam all the time, but I think one should make distinction between the Sunni majority and the Shia, who are also susceptible to attacks more than once. We've seen horrible incidents in the past few months there as well. Ahmadis, you just mentioned, and the Christians, of course. Then ethnic minorities as well. The Baluchi people is one example, but there are many others as well. I would also like to add here the position of women, because politically speaking, one might consider them a minority as well. And horrible things are being done to them in the name of, well, whatever. So, yes, there is grave concern there about all these human rights violations, about the violence it takes. Mrs. Asma Jahangir, who is, of course, a very prominent human rights lawyer of Pakistan, alleged that she an assassination attempt was planned last year against her. So that is also a very serious situation. I have three questions for you here. One was already a little bit asked, but I'd like to hear more about the relation between government and the military, because if I'm well informed, the government has been attempting to quell the violence against, especially in the area of Balochistan, undertaken by the military and the secret police, security services. But they've just been simply unable to stem it. So how do you look at is it a question of incapacity, or is it a question of unwillingness if you look at Islamabad, at the government? A second question is, you already mentioned the UN, and I know that the working group on enforced and involuntary disappearances visited your country last year and was also gravely concerned about the disappearances there. So they confirm your findings. But indeed, what efforts have there been done in other more powerful organs? Has Pakistan been on the agenda of the Security Council last year, for example? Has the General Assembly dealt with the human rights situation recently? That would be of my interest. And the last question is on the influence on the West. I doubt whether Pakistan is more dependent on the West than the other way around. Actually, we've had a very ambiguous attitude towards the country, of course. We need it in Afghanistan and elsewhere. But we do not like what we see when we see government acting. But is Pakistan still, would you say, interested in Western sanctions or measures, whatever, when China is around and helping it so much? I mean, it's buying up ports, it's providing a lot of infrastructure. I think the relation is so close that it doesn't bode well for the power of the West in Pakistan, I'm afraid. So I'd like to hear your vision on that as well. Thank you.
Sure. If I could touch the first question, the government and military relationship. Apparently, when the 2008 People's Party government came, my older brother is good friends with Zardari, because Zardari is apparently Baluch as well. So when Zardari came into power, he met my brother in Dubai, and he said, I'll be very honest with you, the military establishment has said, be the president of 3 provinces, leave Baluchistan to us. And that's the condition that you will remain to be a president, if you want to be a president. And he goes, I'm helpless, I cannot do anything. And this is first-hand information from Zardari to my brother. I cannot do anything. If I want to be the president of 3 provinces, they said military will deal with Baluchistan. Deal mean with the iron fist. And that's exactly what they've done. And this is their, not unwillingness, their incapability. But the unwillingness or the connivance is when they offer packages, like the Prime Minister offered relief package for Baluchistan, I don't know how many 100 million. This is all bogus. It's all on paper. This is where we say that they're accomplices with the military, because they're giving the international community a wrong image that, it's a deprived, we're really sorry for this province, military dictators have done bad things, us democratic government, we will help them. But they're not doing anything, because they have no jurisdiction to do anything. So this is all a facade. When the working group came, I was in close contact, because as I do human rights, I talk about human rights in the UN for the past 12 years. So I was in close contact with the people on the ground. The Pakistani intelligence would not allow anybody to meet the working group on enforced disappearances. So I told them, my instructor, go stand wherever you know that they are. So the working group, members of the working group, went outside the front door. It was like a big conference room. Went outside, and these people were saying, we want to come inside. So they told the ISI guys, stay out of the way, we want to speak to them. And therefore people just ran into their room and started telling them stories. So this was the height of censorship, or people keeping people away from telling the truth. They break the government ministers, their puppets, to come and tell the true, flowery, sweet stories of how wonderful human rights situation in Baluchistan is. And this China-Pakistan nexus, I was in the UN last month in the Council, and the Chinese, I made a big intervention item 4 against China, this Pakistan-China nexus. Basically, Pakistan is the illegal broker for Baluchistan, selling us out. Sunda project, Baluchistan. Gwadar port, Baluchistan. Every other investment that they're doing, the Sui gas fields in Dirabukti, they're doing digging for more gas over there, Baluchistan. So basically, Pakistan is selling us off to the Chinese, and Chinese are very cutthroat capitalists. They will do anything. They're not interested in human rights. So when I made my intervention in the UN, Chinese representatives said, I'm sorry, but I thought this is for mutual benefit of us and the Pakistanis. Well, it is for you and the Pakistanis, not for us. We are the indigenous people of the land. So it's true. This is a dangerous nexus.
because the free trade agreement for me is the interesting lever actually. I would have to look up. I was trying to find it out on the internet in the meantime, which is a bit difficult. It looks like the negotiations are stalled, and it looks like they're only going for a free trade agreement, and which is the exclusive competence of the European Union, of the Commission.
It's 129 goods, if I'm correct.
Yeah, but we also have more comprehensive agreements, like association agreements, which we do have with Ukraine or countries which are a bit closer, which also have very patchy human rights records. But those agreements are combined between the EU, which has the competence on trade, and with the national states, which have the competence on a number of other trades, or have the competence together. If it's only a free trade agreement, you can only block it at one stage, and that's at the European Parliament. So if you would like to make a link between minorities and a free trade agreement, then you should start working at Brussels, at the European Parliament. And if you want to have something, I think we pay about just over 20 million of aid to Pakistan each year. That's where we can make, that's where we
Some
could
difference, indeed.
Indeed make a link, but the European link is probably by far the strongest in some way. But that's sort of how politics plays out in this role.
Please.
No, please.
Yeah, sorry, as a concluding comment, as we said, if for example, the Netherlands or the Dutch Parliament, they speak about the Balochistan issue, it has a big ripple effect, because us, the Baluch living outside Balochistan, or the human rights activists, I've lived in England for 28 years. I came to Europe when I was 9 years old. For us, they've made life very difficult in European countries and other countries. For example, when I go to foreign airports, especially United Kingdom, I get stopped by MI5, MI6 because Pakistan's given a big file about me. Going to Geneva, same things used to happen. So their foreign office is very active against the Baluch diaspora who live abroad, basically to harass them. They can't do anything else. If we're criminals, we'd be in prisons. So just to harass them. And very interestingly, I mean, I found out in Switzerland what they had done from the Bern office, from their Bern mission. They had sent a message to the Swiss intelligence. Mehran Baluch, date of birth, everything same as me. Place of birth, Pakistan. I'm not born in Pakistan. So what the poor guy sitting on immigration does, when he swipes my passport, oops, Mehran Baluch, same date of birth, same height, same everything, born in Pakistan with a British passport, there's something wrong. So he has to investigate. So therefore, maybe half an hour goes, and that's exactly what they're doing. Even Interpol, they have misinformed Interpol with people's names, which they can't back up, so therefore we get trouble. So if our main purpose is to inform at least the people of the European countries that, identify us, don't fall into this trap of bureaucracy, because the foreign offices are doing very little for anything else other than promoting themselves as human rights champions and promoting anybody like me and Mr. Wilson here as bad guys who are there and should be kept an eye on. They're wasting European resources. So this is something very sensitive, but I'm sure as European governments will find a way. I mean, I think they understand why Pakistan is doing it, but we have to somehow control this act, because the Foreign Office should not be given an open hand to just criminalize anybody according to their decision. Thank you.
Safe cities either. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.